This is a pitch. Let me bring it up here. For Sprint 4. So Sprint 4, let me switch screens. Sprint 4 just finished this last 2 weeks, and I did some work in advance of it. It was a pretty substantial guts of the game type of sprint. It was for the advanced character system, so we feel like the character system is going to be one of the main tenets. Certainly the thing that we want to make sure is very robust and something that people will want to use. The character system, again, remind you, we're in Sprint 4, and we finished basically get a basic game, a multiplayer game established through Steam. We tested some media options, and we also tested and restructured our project to be more friendly for multiple users in there working on it together as an open source project. Sprint 4, though, it was really focused at characters and trying to make sure some of the things that I had at least partially gotten working in PUP work now and we're more game ready. I did a menu system redo, which I'll be talking about, which is a user interface menu in terms of navigation in it and how and what was available. You can morph your appearance of your characters in the game and added some more characters to be able to do that with. You can change their clothes and morph their clothes. So if you want to need to fix poke throughs or whatever that might be in there, you can change the clothes. Obviously, if a shirt that fits, go to a different shirt or different pants. But then you can also change those as well. And then persistence. Before in the game, if you were to morph a character, let's say make his nose bigger, you could have done that in the last version after Sprint 3. You couldn't save it, so next time you came in, you'd have to morph the character again. Now what it'll do is it'll save character morphs and clothes, and also remember what character you were, what avatar you were using the last time you were in. So when you came back in, it set you to that avatar. All right, specific goals. I had to redo the user interface menu. The user interface menu was based on Poser's menu. Exactly, a copy of, because when I built PUP, I was being paid by Poser, and so I was making the menu look like that. Have the same options. And quite honestly, the Poser menu is confusing. It certainly doesn't fit exactly at something like a game like this will do. For example, your clothes, you might have clothes, and clothes might be under props, clothes might be under figures, it might be, it's just weird the way they've done things. So basically, the menus now that you can map or navigate from in the buttons on the top of the menu are avatar, which allows you to pick avatars and change your avatar, and then morph the avatar once you've chosen one. Animations, pick an animation for the character. Emotions, change facial emotions for the most part right now, and that'll be added for other things down the road. But emotions, separate from animations. Clothes, so you can change your clothes. Backpack is basically placing props inside of the game. And selecting props from the game and putting them into your inventory. Camera, which is just camera options, first person, third person, free camera, and it'll be down the road, be various settings for the camera settings. Music, which will be the unique to this game things that you can do, and so it'll have a DJ HUD, it'll have probably dance hubs. It'll probably have musical instruments you can play, on and on. And the whole reason I'm building this game. And then teleporting, going from one scene to another. And those are the user that's the user interface now, and I had to redo that and change the animation stuff. And will need somebody's help, maybe Moggs or Bluebell or Rag, somebody that's an artist, to redo the icons. Because I just copied the icons for the buttons to go to those various menu options, again, from Poser, because that was who I was working for. But we'll want different ones, and I would rather have somebody that was talented put those together than myself. The second thing I worked on was a morph character system for features and body. So basically, you can pick a character off the avatar menu, and you can say I want to edit it, and it's brought into and then you're presented with a whole bunch of morphs that you can do to change the character. What a morph is, if you're not aware of it, what a morph does is basically the person that built the model decided these vertexes on the model, and they would select a bunch of vertexes and they would weight them appropriately. So, for example, let's say they'd take the vertexes down the center of the nose, and they'd have the strongest weight. And then as it went off from that to the side of the face, and they'd have less influence on it. And basically that morph acts like a magnet. And so if you change the slider value on the morph for the nose to make it bigger, it would make it bigger by moving those vertexes, again, with some being weighted more than others. I had the Poser Legacy characters, and they had 371 morphs each. And then Victoria 4 I loaded from Daz this time too, which was what's going to be the center of what I use going forward. But the Victoria 4 and Michael 4, and probably some of the other that level. Ikeo, I don't remember what their names are, but there's about 3 or 4 of them, and I'm going to use those as a starting point. But we're going to go upgrade to 7 and 8 eventually. But I want to do that with an approach the Renderosity and Daz folks before I do any of that. And we've talked about why I chose those as a starting point. They had a bunch of morphs, and I also added the walk, run, jump animation to that as well, by the way. I also built the morph system for the clothes. So basically what it turns out to be is, another way of looking at it is the character itself, the skin character, naked character, is one mesh. And then there's also separate meshes for shirt, pants, shoes, hair, skirt, dress, hat, glasses, necklace, earrings, bracelet, and ring that I've defined up to this point. Again, that's a lot based on what Sansar does, and based on also what kind of stuff people made in the other world. So it's basically attachables as well as wearables, you can say, those things. So in each one of those meshes, when they're imported, have their own morph array that may or may not be the same as the underlying morph array inside of the character system. So you might have morphs underneath a necklace, for example, that do weird stuff. Anyway, that's the morph system. For clothes, that's now in there. And then the biggest thing then, as I said before, was I did put persistence in. So before, you could mess all you wanted to in terms of the game, but if you left the game and came back, it was back to the way that the original stock game that I had programmed was. It didn't save any of your changes. What kind of changes? Well, you could have changed your character. So what happens is if you change from character 1 to character 5 in here, and you leave the game, and now you come back in, it remembers you were character 5 and loads character 5 for you. You could have made changes to the inventory now. The fact that I've had the ability to morph. Now when you morph, let's say I morph my character and give it a bigger nose and do whatever. I make it look different. I can save that morph as a new character and name it, Mike 2. And what it'll do now is it adds it to the inventory, it adds it to the menu, and it also adds it to a persistent store, which basically does is it stores it out on the hard drive. On your hard drive is a local file system. And that's where we're going to go for a while, and I may stay there, or we may move to putting it in a database. Kind of thing that's nice about it storing on your own area. Theoretically, you could move from place to place a lot easier if that was the case. Anyway, Clothes inventory changes the same way. If you change your clothes, if you make it fit now because of the morph, it didn't quite fit your character, and you change it so now it fits. Or a lot of those morphs will have things to change. That's like hair morphs, for example, which are like clothes. You could have a whole bunch of different styles, and you chose a different style. It would you could save that style as, updo, and it would remember it, or you could create as a new one called, hair one updo, and you could bring that back in or put that on your character. So those are the major things that I did in this sprint. Got a lot of advice from Ori on those things, and we've walked through that stuff. So that's kind of the basic character subsystem that we've got. I'm going to do a real quick here. What's Sprint 6? Little kind of preview. Sprint 5, not Sprint 6. Sprint 5 plan. Ori and I are going to do a bunch of multi-user testing. I've been doing all the development, and I've tested between 2 PCs and on my own. But with 2 of us in there testing, we'll uncover a lot of things. We wanted to do that before we started asking other people to come join it. We're going to add a bunch of content. Right now, I get enough, for example, to test a character or the character subsystem of some type. I'll bring in a character and do stuff. That's all it is. There's one character in the system, so it's not much to show anybody. But we're going to go ahead and add, same with levels. The levels are no builds at all that are worth anything. They're just like simple ones that I had to test to make sure I could make it work. There's a whole bunch of free content, maps and levels out there that we're going to go start bringing in just to test, just to see how the game holds up in it. If there's any kind of issues, if things look stupid, we'll find out. And we'll also learn a lot about performance that way. We had hoped that most of our levels that we have in the game will be user created, and hopefully by a number of them by the artists associated with Music Oasis. But we're going to bring in a bunch that are free and available, and take a look at them and test them. I'm going to add the Michael 4 character, which is the equivalent of Victoria 4. And also its morphs and build a locomotion walk cycle like I did for Victoria 4, so you can move your character around. Then I'll add a whole bunch of characters. I have a whole bunch of characters that I have licenses for that are basic a slider switch or underlying texture map, material map, new versions of Victoria 4. These are Victoria 4 mesh and skeleton, but have different textures on top of it. Plus, they've adjusted the morphs on it to make it look like a different character. Victoria, there's just literally hundreds, if not thousands, of versions of Victoria and Michael 4 that are out there that have been developed over the years. A lot of them just people gave away as they would build them, and also there's some that you would have to buy. The Victoria 4 and Michael 4 clothes, I'm going to bring a bunch of those in, so you have a choice of more than 2 pieces of clothes at the beginning of the game. Then some, and reason for bringing those in and doing this is it's a good way of testing as well. Testing that, that I didn't forget something. I'm going to also create the initial dance animations, which I've got most of them. I've had them for a long time. I've done a lot of, as you know, animation, what should I say? Animation fixing up, either done it manually or mostly done it via programming against the underlying BVH files. So I've got a bunch, and I need to go create them, and so we'll have a dance set, half a dozen, 10 maybe, different kinds of dances that we could do that, plus some typical wave, clap, type animations as well that we'd expect in the game. Again, because I've already got them. I've captured them and applied them to the characters already. I have available to me, so I'm going to go put those so you can select them from the game. I'm going to integrate camera options from PUP. Getting back to this, that will be, it's something that's already had working on my previous stuff, and I just have to hook it back up. I don't see that taking long. primarily look at the focus of ad content. Ori will be doing most of the map and level testing to see what we can get in, and I'll finish, since these other ones are associated with the character system. Basically, I'll work on those. Then as we finish that, we're going to go at the end of it, wrap it up by testing and documenting a workflow for 3D artists that will say, here's what we think will work for you guys. And so when we invite other people into it, that here's how you could add a level and how it would work and how we would work together on that. And basically, the 3 approaches we're thinking of, and we'll see where we go with this. One would be a simple one where you would create a zip file through a normal process called migrate inside of Unreal, and then share that with us, and we would integrate it into the game. And in that way, what we could do is also we could help if it needs to be tweaked. We could tweak, and we could get on a screen with you together in a session and share and see why we had to tweak something. Then there'll be the pack approach, and the pack approach just says, hey, once we kind of work through some of those bugs, if there are any, the pack approach is you'll click a button inside of Unreal Engine and say, compile it all up, build it, bake it, and send it to the game. And so it's the same thing as publishing inside of Sansar, and you won't have any of us, either Ori or I would be involved with it at all besides helping you debug stuff. Then there's a multi-user editor we want to play with too. And that says where 2 of us could get into an active session of Unreal and build together. So we want to look at that as well. So the whole idea of Sprint 5, the goal at the end, and we may or may not reach it. If we don't in Sprint 5, we will by the end of Sprint 6, I think, is at the end we want to be able to release moves as what I'm calling Core Team Alpha version 0.0, meaning, hey, we'd open it up to other people, especially 3D artists, to say, hey, let me play with it. And you'll have enough of a game in there where if you do build a level, you can move it in, you can have your avatar, you can walk around, you can host a game, let's all get together at my place and have other people join through Steam. And you could listen to, YouTube videos, if nothing else. And dance to them. I mean, so we could actually have a dance if we wanted to, or we certainly could have something like an open mic. Now, let me say that we could have an open mic where you couldn't hear anybody talking. Right now, our plan is to just, if people get into the game together, we'll all just get in a Discord session for talk. We'll change that. That's obviously in an upcoming sprint is chat, which Ari has already done a prototype on, a chat system, and then we'll also look at a voice system as well. But again, that's where we're at right now. I'll do a quick, just to give you an idea. Here's a thing that saves, that it saves off to your, when you make a change inside of the system. It saves basically your game state, it saves what you have in your avatar inventory, it saves what you have in your prop inventory, and it'll also change what changes you made to your motions, and that'll be coming up or down the road.